Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of Knights of the Alternate Tables. This time we're going to be talking about what if France went communist right before World War II during the big election. Now, a lot of people get quite confused about why France always goes communist, but that is simple reason. France was actually close to going to communist in our timeline. Make sure to like and subscribe, and to have a good one. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you in the video. 1936 and the world maps looks like this, with Germany about to invade its neighbors and start off the main conflict of World War II, preparing to invade Poland. But with a key difference, the France elections proved that France becomes a communist regime, ending the Third Republic and establishing the First Commune. This would be huge and an ally for the Soviets. Now, with Germany annexing Austria and taking over Czechoslovakia, there wouldn't be a lot of do, and this would be the cultural influence of the map. As you can see, the Soviets control most of France and Yugoslavia, and the Poland has their metamors with their Balkan allies. Though the Great Britain has allies of Portugal and Ireland, Benelux still remains neutral. France and the Soviet Union would be fine with dividing up Poland among the Germans and the Soviets, and without France's support, Britain would not do anything, so this would make them avoid World War II. Though Poland now scared and losing an ally, this would greatly hurt Poland, who would decide to try and fight it out to the last man, even though this would overly all fail and Poland would be annexed. Spain would also go communist, now with France sending in their own troops and getting experience for them, practicing their fighting under the Republican side, and Russia now sending their own troops in. Germany would now be not fighting the Spanish War alone and improving their units compared to the French, but they would be on equal footing grounds when the invasion would bound to happen. So, the map would end up looking like this, with Germany and the Soviet Union still preparing to divide it, but Germany wanting a quick invasion and a good footing ground, and a flat front to quickly push through, instead of a rigid front that would leave them quite exposed to encirclements. So, when they were preparing their invasion of France, knowing that the French are Soviet allies, they would put heavy troops on the Soviet border, but not as many on the French. Germany would prepare to invade. Meanwhile, Italy, expecting to invade as well, France would be premature and invade, quickly losing the Italian mountain range defense that they would have held, and invading Sardinia and Sicily without telling them. Meanwhile, Germany would make great progress into the rest of Poland, now Russian territory, and would start losing its men on the Maginot Line. Not wanting to invade the Benelux, they would start losing territory fast. Meanwhile, Sardinia would be surrounded and would have to be retreated to try and defend the main Italian homeland. Meanwhile, Sicily would start hurting everything. And with this weakening the Italian units, they couldn't support Germany in their invasion of France, so they would take more and more land, even though they didn't happen that much in the first place. Half of Sicily would be quickly cut in half, and these Italian troops would still be forced to go and help Germany, because if Germany falls, what chance does Italy have? Meanwhile, Germans would push most of their strength through the Soviet Union, trying to take Moscow and St. Petersburg, or Leningrad. This would lead to a horrible, horrible defeat, with more and more men dying, but France continuing their assault. A huge invasion force would go outside of Rome. Meanwhile, Yugoslavia was increasingly looking like it would join the Soviet Union. Even though they weren't communists at the time, popular communist radicals would prepare to take over. So, being preemptive, the Bulgarians, Romanians, and Hungarians would join Germany and quickly strike through. Seeing that they would turn communist one way or another, might as well try and take out some other enemies along the way. Though with this invasion of Yugoslavia, the Italian forces would quickly crumble their lines and have to pull back the troops that they were sending to Germany. Germany would start getting encircled fast, and Romania would also start losing its land, and Yugoslavia could start pushing more and more, seizing to a communist uprising that would quickly form. Now Italy would look even more in danger, preparing to be the first member of the Axis to collapse. Italy not ready to collapse, Benito would soon start to flee. Spain would also join the war earlier, but these troops would be a minor relevance due to the Spanish Civil War, though it would give them the slight edge of a numbers advantage. Even with the Soviet hordes, this number advantage would be huge. Bulgaria and Hungary would be the only Axis members not to have their territory invaded. Now southern Italy would begin a crossing that would quickly destroy. Meanwhile, the bulk of the German forces that haven't been retreated would start getting crushed. Yugoslavia would be the only main Comintern member not to start taking territory, as the Balkan forces, thinking that if they can crush it, they can make a stronghold there and push out and hopefully resist the Soviet horde. Meanwhile, Yugoslavia would see its quick opportunity and push, connecting with the French forces and managing to escape their armies into Italy, which would quickly crush their resistance, and Italy would start to fall. Meanwhile, small pockets of German defense would still last, and Italy would hold on to Venice with all of their might, trying not to lose one of their most important cities to Yugoslavia. In this timeline, Berlin would fall to the French. This would quickly lead the French to have upper bargaining power, and Yugoslavia would manage to start pushing out. Bulgaria, Romania, and Hungary would start to feel more surrounded than Italy, even though Italy was about to surrender, and those would be the only strongest powers left. Even Italy, a major power, would start to fall. Though the Axis would crumble all as one with Italy's defeat, Yugoslavia would grow massively, though more states would emerge, with Schleswig-Holstein, the Rhine, Western Germany, Eastern Germany, Prussia, Czechia, Austria-Hungary, Austria, and just a large amount of new nations would form up. Bulgaria would be reduced to nothing. Meanwhile, Italy would be reformed to Naples, and France would take over their overseas colony, the Papal States, and a bunch of other minor nations. Even Bavaria wouldn't be spared, with northern and southern Bavaria, with the French deciding their fate. The Soviets would control most of the eastern half, while the French would control most of the western half, with no truly free states being established. The Soviets, now seeing themselves as the dominant power of Europe, would prepare to invade the Baltics. The Baltic nations would quickly crumble under the strength of the Soviets, though still holding their resolves, thinking they could pull a Finland, such as in the Winter War, that they could keep on going. They would keep on fighting to the last man. Though Lithuania would be the first one to capitulate, Latvia and Estonia would hold strong, keeping Mitamors alive. The Lithuanian armies, with support from the Latvians, would hold on. Meanwhile, the Estonian border would be barely available with Latvia, and most of their forces would have to cross by sea. They would then start pulling their forces out, trying to become a government in exile, get support from Britain, but Britain, not wanting to have to face the communists, would quickly decide against this and leave. The Soviets would annex them, making another Soviet Socialist Republic. Meanwhile, Poland would also become a Soviet Socialist Republic, and Romania would also start becoming parts Soviet Socialist Republic. This would be a crushing defeat, with the USSR, new territories, and new diverse populations growing massively. This would indeed lead to a huge fight innerly, though though this would largely be irrelevant with the harsh Soviet government cracking down. Well, that was a fun video to record. I hope you guys make sure to like and subscribe it. The channel's been growing a lot recently, which I thank you guys so much. Gonna slow down a little with school starting and all that, but thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you do have a good one. These videos are really fun to make and allowing me to support a bunch of alternate histories. Just really fun. Wow, what a great video. As we look on Napoleon taking over Ulm, let's think to ourselves, what do I want to do in my life? Well, I personally want to click on the left to see my most recent video, and on the right to see a video YouTube thinks I should watch. I personally think they're wrong.